Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest in our series of Wednesday webinars, this time joined by the team at Comstor. So the plan for today's session is really just to run you through how you can continue to secure your workplace through SD-WAN. So I'm delighted to be joined today by our wonderful team of panelists. So you've got Rob, who is an account director here at Natilik, Dave, who is a security solutions architect, and Oasis, who is a solutions architect over at Comstor. If you have any questions for these guys during the session, there is a Q&A functionality that you can use. It should appear in the right-hand corner of your screen. And then what we'll do is we'll group all those questions together and we will ask them all at the end. Or if there's a question that you prefer to ask them directly, I have put up their email addresses on the screen so you can contact them after the session. And we'll also talk through how you can contact us directly at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dave, who's going to kick off the session today.
Thank you, Laura. So we'll just cover off the agenda for the call to start with. So if you just want to move that slide forward for me, that's great. And so we've got three main topics that we're going to be covering off before we're going to be showing you a live demo. And then we'll have the Q&A session at the end. So just to start off then, so we've got the zero trust approach. So this was actually coined back in 2010 by the principal architect at Forest Research. And these days, that approach has just seen a huge uptake. And the next topic there will be the Meraki MXs. So we'll be looking through the key features of the Meraki MX devices. Bit of sizing comparisons and the virtual VMX100 offering. And then we're going to cover off the Cisco SD-WAN. So you can see here that we're going to be looking at the SD-WAN powered by Meraki. So Cisco do have two SD-WAN offerings. You've got the powered by Viptela as well as the Meraki. The focus for today is the Meraki one, but if you should need further information on the Viptela offering as well, if you need to know more comparisons between those solutions and what may be best fit, then obviously please do get in touch. But today's will be focused on the Meraki. And then it'll be through to the, as I mentioned, the live demo and the Q&A. So just to kick off then, we'll move through to look at the zero trust approach. So yeah, as I mentioned, this term was actually coined in 2010. But the idea of the starting function of zero trust, it came from the Jericho Forum papers back in 2004. So they were actually looking at the term deperimeterization. And actually, rather than looking at the concept of what's inside the network and what's outside the network, trying to secure it at the perimeter. So anything that's coming into your network as it crossed the perimeter, putting security there. The idea of deperimeterization is actually looking at anything and everything, not looking at what's inside and what's outside. It's at looking at both sides of that boundary. So some of the applications that Cisco use, so looking at it from a workforce perspective, so how you can actually secure users and devices. Cisco have their Duo security product for that function. So that enables establishing trust for the people and the devices, allowing access to the apps from anywhere. And Duo's multi-factor authentication allows for those functions. From a workplace perspective, and this is then looking at securing all device connections across the network, including the IoT, so the Internet of Everything devices. So SD Access is the main product set within the Cisco portfolio. SD Access allows for segmentation of the workplace, securing users and device connections across the network. When we look at actually workloads, so the Cisco product there would be tetration. So tetration helps to protect the workload that secures all connections within your applications. And that's for use across the data centers as well as multi-cloud. So there's some of the key products within the Cisco portfolio as we look at zero trust. And yeah, so zero trust is centered on the belief that organizations should not automatically trust what's inside. It's actually essentially starting from ground zero. So you're not allowing any access until you've truly authenticated who you are to get access to those services. So that's the zero trust approach. So what we'll do now is we'll move through, we'll start looking at the Meraki devices. So it's a one unified platform. So essentially, it's giving a comprehensive security solution in a single unified platform. So every single Meraki security appliance within their portfolio supports many features. Some of these key features we're looking at here. So they're a next generation firewall, including protection for intrusion prevention. They'll give content filtering, cloud brokered VPN. So for the actual SD-WAN solution to enable VPN tunneling between all locations, all brokered by the cloud VPN service. Malware protections also there, and also you've got your high availability options. So the MX devices, from a hardware point of view, can be deployed in pairs, enabling high availability. So that's just the overview of the platform. We'll actually now move on. We'll look at some of the hardware highlights across these models. So there's some imagery of some of the devices there. You can see the smaller MX60 range at the top, and then scaling through the 84, the 100, and the 250. So from a sizing perspective, obviously each one can support varying amounts of VPN connections. So the rack-mounted ranges, that's the MX84, the 100, the 250, and then the Enterprise 450. Those ones will look for connecting up to 1,500 locations with the remote site offerings using the desktop sizes. So the MX64, 67, and 68, they're the desktop ones that you can see sat on the top, and they can become with either the Wi-Fi or cellular integrated. And you've also got the option for USB cellular connections. So all of these will come with 2 WAN ports. So you can more or less make out on that imagery that there's dual WAN connections on the larger sizes, but there's just single connections on the smaller. But what you can do is take one of the LAN connections and configure that as a WAN connection, which enables then the 2 WAN ports. So all devices do support the dual WAN connection, so you can have a primary and secondary internet circuit connected to these devices, which obviously then enables failover across the 2 circuits, as well as prioritization of traffic between maybe higher speed links can have your VoIP traffic, and lower speed links for less important traffic. Cellular connections can be utilized for either like a single WAN or for your failover. And then, as I mentioned, you can have them as either the embedded LTE modems or a USB port. We do have some models with the PoE and PoE Plus options. So you've got the Ethernet ports on the devices that can provide power. So cameras, Wi-Fi devices, IP phones can all be powered using the PoE standard or the PoE Plus. With the PoE Plus obviously giving extra power to provide the power to those newer devices that are a bit more power hungry. The high availability mode, so Meraki warm spare feature allows for the standby device to take over in the event of a primary device failure, and there's no additional device license for that. So you can just get 2 pieces of hardware with a single license to make use of the warm spare high availability. The Meraki MXs use the virtual routing redundancy protocol, so that's the VRRP. So networked devices need no additional configuration or intervention to begin using the spare MX. And data center failover, also mission critical requirement for organizations. And the MX security appliances support secure tunneling between sites using either a meshed hub and spoke technology. You can specify which data center to use as the primary resource for shared subnets, along with a list of other priority hubs to fail over in the event of an outage. So if a site goes offline, branches will automatically fail over to a secondary or tertiary data center that you specify. So that's the hardware models. For virtualized solutions, so if you do need connectivity into cloud solutions, we have the VMX 100 as the offering for this. So this can be deployed in both an AWS and an Azure environment. And this allows companies that have a cloud-first strategy to essentially make VPN connections direct into those services. So it can be deployed, as I mentioned, within Azure or AWS. It can give support for up to 500 megabit of VPN throughput. So essentially provides ample bandwidth for mission-critical IT services hosted in the cloud, like your Active Directory, logging, file and print services. So all those services that are there sitting up in the cloud, deploy the VMX 100, set that as a hub device, and then make spoke connections down to your offices. So then you've got your secure access to the cloud services. So that's the virtualized offerings. The next point we just wanted to touch on is zero-touch provisioning. So Meraki devices, they essentially can just be plugged in, discovered by the cloud. So there's no pre-staging requirement. And as soon as they're connected up and imported into your Meraki dashboard, which is your administration portal, all the configuration can be completed remotely. So essentially, it's a safety and fast deployment. Literally can be deployed in minutes using zero-touch cloud provisioning. Security settings are simple to synchronize with templates that you can build. So essentially, thousands of sites can be rolled out using the templates. And then the Auto VPN connectivity will secure the traffic in between all those provisioned devices. So essentially, once the device is physically connected and acquired an IP address, whether that be through DHCP, it can then be discovered by your administration portal, the Meraki dashboard in the cloud, and you're good to go for deployment. So that's zero touch. We'll now move through and actually look at Cisco SD-WAN. So software-defined WAN. This is the wide area networking offering that lets you have a software-based approach. So businesses can utilize and manage more than one external network connection, whether that be MPLS, broadband, fiber optic at each location. And you can actually gain better performance by sharing traffic through those connections. So with SD-WAN, network admins can define which WAN link an application should use, or set up rules for a link should it be used based on performance. So you're going to be getting a better application experience. Security is by default, so all connections are over secure VPN tunnels, and all those tunnels are configured up by the cloud. So you've got optimized cloud security, a single pane of glass management, so it's much more simplified management. And Cisco SD-WAN, powered by Meraki, is basically the delivery engine to give this better experience. So natively integrated advanced security that includes next generation layer 7 firewall, Cisco AMP with threat grid. So you can get all the Cisco Snort, IDS, IPS, your cloud security. You can integrate in Cisco Umbrella and content filtering. So basically, you can confidently allow direct internet access circuits to connect into your network. And then again, the simplified management, so the single pane of glass, that's for your configurations, for all your monitoring, and provisioning and license management, all through that single portal. So in the past, organizations probably relied heavily on WAN links, which quite a high cost for MPLS links. So that would ensure highly predictable and reliable connectivity. But as we're seeing now, bandwidth consumption is increasing. So more devices, increased usage of cloud applications, video streaming. So essentially, MPLS links are now exceeding their capacity for which they were designed. So lower cost links like your DIA, so direct internet access circuits, broadband fiber, they've all matured now. So they have extra reliability and uptime. So they are actually viable options now to put your corporate traffic across. and in some cases to completely replace MPLS. So that's the reason behind the Cisco SD-WAN offering. So I think I just mentioned on the secure Auto VPN. So just a little touch deeper on that. So the Auto VPN, it's a proprietary technology developed by Meraki. It allows you to quickly and easily build the VPN tunnels between the Meraki MX devices at your separate network branches, and just simply a few clicks. So Auto VPN performs the work normally required for manual VPN connections with a simple cloud-based process. 2 or more MX devices can establish Auto VPN tunnels between devices and locations, and you can do this over any type of WAN link in literally 3 simple clicks. So devices are enabled to operate as hub or spoke participants in the VPN, and then networks are identified to advertise and route through that VPN mesh. All configuration to build the VPN tunnels is managed by the Meraki cloud, and devices can be added in partial or full mesh topologies to build in redundancy. So that's basically a coverage of the Auto VPN. So we'll just touch on some of the monitoring options. So again, look, we can see that we're at the dashboard.meraki.com site in this image. So that's the same page for all the configuration. And as you see here, we're looking at the monitoring. So the performance of all the VPN tunnels is monitored through here, and approximately every second, a probe is actually sent out to carry out that monitoring and to check the network. So you're getting very much real-time information around the packet loss, jitter, latency, and mean opinion score. So the actual the grading of the quality of those links. Advanced analytics also monitor key factors that influence how users experience business critical resources to identify the root cause of any degradation in minutes. Real-time performance telemetry is used to make autonomous decisions about which paths should be used to satisfy the performance of critical cloud applications and VoIP. So you've got basically like a very high grade visibility of what the key factors are that are influencing the user's experience around these business critical resources. So you can identify what's going on in the network. You're able to keep an eye on web application health, on WAN health and VoIP health, and again, all through that unified management platform. So that's, yeah, the monitoring side of things. And then just around the smart WAN path. So I mentioned earlier as well, when you've got the like dual internet links into a device, you've got the resiliency, so you can have failover between those links, but you've also got the option to actually smartly route the traffic. So prior to the SD-WAN release, the Auto VPN tunnels would only form over a single interface. But with the SD-WAN release, it's possible to form concurrent Auto VPN tunnels over both internet interfaces. So essentially, the VPN tunnels are built across both links. The ability to form and send traffic over the VPN tunnels on both interfaces, that significantly increases the flexibility of the traffic paths and allows for the routing decisions. So we mentioned here the policy-based routing. So PBR, it allows administrators to configure preferred VPN paths, and whether that be for different traffic flows based on source, destination, even the application, or the protocol or port. So you're basically putting configuration in place to say which traffic you want to use a particular link, but also you can make use of the dynamic path selection. So this will actually look at performance and select the best VPN tunnel. So network administrators basically configure a performance criteria for the different types of traffic. The path decisions are then made on a per flow basis based on which of the available VPN tunnels meet the criteria, which will be determined using those monitoring of the loss, the latency, the jitter metrics, which is being gathered by the MX device. So I mentioned as well that this is checked every second. So there's actually a performance probe, which is like a small payload of traffic. It's only like 100 bytes of UDP data. and that's sent over each VPN tunnel every second, which then allows for the MX to track for successful responses and to basically then grade the performance of that link, so then it can make these policy-based routing decisions and basically select the correct path for that WAN traffic. So that's basically the overview of the devices and what I'll be presenting today. We're going to now cover off a live demonstration. So I'll hand back to Laura to hand that across, and yeah, Oasis will see your live demonstration of the Meraki dashboard.
Perfect. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, Oasis, and then I reckon if I pass the ball over to you, you should then be able to take over.
Sure. So you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, we can.
Yep, sure. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, David, for a comprehensive introduction about Meraki MX and SD-WAN capabilities. So I will quickly walk through to some of the key features of Meraki MX, how we can configure on a very high level, and how we can monitor. So as David said, Meraki is a cloud-based IT solution that uses Meraki servers that are located at different locations around the globe. And when in case of Australia, we have primary data center in Sydney, which is backed up by a data center in Singapore. So Meraki Dashboard is a web-based tool which we use to manage and monitor our Meraki networks. So whenever you log into your Meraki dashboard, the first thing you're going to see is the summary of all your networks. So here, a network represents a single site where you can have a single or maybe multiple Meraki appliances. So for example, right now I can see this is a dummy organization, a demo organization. I can see different networks that are deployed across the globe. I can see the health status of each network here. And from here, I can further drill down to see the statistics about the network, like what is happening inside the network, what are my appliances there, which devices are online, which devices are offline. And further, from the same page, I can do the configuration. So let us see what is happening inside our Sydney network. So once I click on the Sydney, the first thing I'm going to see is the summary of the clients that are connected inside this network. What are the health status of these devices so far? How much data they have used so far. So I can see those statistics straight away from the first page, first landing page. I can also see the way how these devices are, or these clients are connected to network, whether they are connected over wired network or over the wireless network. I can see their IP addresses, their IPv6 addresses, their MAC addresses, and their operating system also. So basically, we can get complete visibility about the activities that are happening inside the network. Further, I can drill down into any user activity from here straight away from this dashboard. For example, I want to explore what this guy or what this person is doing inside our network. So I can click here. After that, I can choose or I can specify the application tab here to see how many applications have used by this user so far and how much data have used across these applications. Maybe, for example, I have discovered that this guy have utilized, let's say, Google a lot or maybe YouTube a lot. Then maybe I can take some actions directly from this dashboard. Maybe, I want to block this user or maybe I want to put this user in a group which have restricted bandwidth. So I can just simply go here and put this user either in a block policy mode or maybe in a group policy that have restricted bandwidth available. So on the left hand side, you can see all the different products available in my Sydney network. So as my colleague said, Meraki is a single pane of glass to manage your complete Meraki IT portfolio. I can manage my Meraki MX appliances, my Meraki MR appliances, my Meraki MDM solution, my Meraki cameras, and my Meraki switches also. In this particular network, I don't have any switches. That's why I can't see the switches tab here. So let us see what are the options available for Meraki MX. So if I go to appliance status under the monitor tab, I can see the status of each interface available on my Meraki MX appliance. In this example, I can see this particular MX, which is MX65. Its both uplinks are online. I can see on the LAN side, port 5, port 6 are online also, and port 12, which is my PoE port, it's also online. Further, I can see the connectivity and some statistics about the network usage. When it comes to configuration, I can configure all the options of SD-WAN and my firewall settings directly from the same page. So whenever you added your Meraki MX appliance in your network, the first setting you have to configure most obviously is the LAN setting. I mean, what are my LAN subnets? What are my LAN SVIs or VLAN interfaces that will be part of my MX appliances? So I can define all my SVI interface or layer 3 virtual interfaces from under this setting, address and VLANs. After doing that, I will specify the role of this appliance. So if you are talking about SD-WAN deployment, then we support different type of topology. We support hub and spoke, which is the most common one. In a hub and spoke topology, we have to define one site as a hub, and the remaining sites will be spoke. So all the inter-site or inter-spoke communication will be happen through the spoke, through the hub. And in the most common scenario, we typically use our data center as a hub, and the rest of the sites will work as a spoke site. So every SD-WAN deployment, first thing we have to configure is the hub site, and then after that we can configure our spoke site. So to configure or define the role of MX appliance, I can go to site-to-site VPN, and from there I can choose whether this particular site is a hub site or a spoke site. So let's say if it's a spoke site, then I can specify which will be my hub site. The second mode of operation or topology supported for SD-WAN is the partial mesh, where I can define multiple hubs, which is the case in this demo right now. I can see multiple hubs are available, and remaining sites can be spoke. Or we also support full mesh topology, where every site will be defined as a hub. So once defined my role of this MX appliance, I can choose which hub I want to connect. In case of multiple data centers, I can specify the priority of data center to send traffic. So this can be my data center SA, the primary data center, and the North America concentrator or data center will be my secondary data center. Further, I can specify which local connected subnets I want to advertise over this SD-WAN network. After defining the role, I can specify my SD-WAN policies. As David mentioned, we can configure performance-based routing, we can configure policy-based routing. So I can specify the bandwidth of my WAN links. In this example, I specify, 250, the default one is already mentioned. This is the maximum capacity of this MX65 appliance. So I define the bandwidth of my uplinks available here. After that, I can specify what will be my primary uplink in case I don't want to enable load balancing, or I can enable just load balancing here, and I keep the option of primary uplink, maybe the WAN one. After that, if I want to use my both uplinks in my SD-WAN topology in an active scenario, then yeah, I can specify that option from here. When it comes to policy-based routing for internet traffic, I can specify which uplink would be my primary uplink and which uplink would be my secondary uplink, or I can specify based on type of traffic. Maybe my both uplinks are operational, but for certain type of traffic, or let's say for my VoIP traffic or my critical traffic, I will utilize my WAN link one, and for remaining traffic, I will specify my WAN link 2. For when it comes to SD-WAN policies, here we can define performance-based routing. So based on the performance of the WAN link, I can influence my routing decision. So the performance monitoring can be done on 4 parameters that already we have covered in the slide. That includes round trip delay, jitter, MOS score, and the packet loss. So I can define my preference here, or I can create my performance class. Like let's say this class is I'm going to use it to influence my, let's say, cloud traffic. I put the name of this performance class, let's say cloud. I specify the maximum latency that should be supported by this service, the jitter, the loss. Once I create that, then I go to this section here. I can define like my performance class for my, let's say, for my cloud traffic. So based on the performance, I'm influencing my routing decision. After that, when it comes to your normal firewall settings, like layer 3, layer 4 firewall rules or content filtering rules, I can go under the firewall section. From there, I can specify the options like my layer 3 rules, my content filtering rules, and some additional settings like netting rules. So by default, everything is allowed, but I can deny, I can put some rules as per the policy of my organization. I can specify layer 7 rules like which application I want to block. I can specify maybe the whole category of application, or I can specify individual application directly from here. I can define my netting rules directly from here. Further, I can integrate this MX with my Active Directory. After this integration, I can have identity-based policies. So I can map my AD users to different group policies, which I can configure. And those group policies can influence some uplink decisions, like maybe I can specify the bandwidth or type of applications particular group can access. Those type of policies are possible if I integrate my MX with my Active Directory. And content filtering. Content filtering is where I can define my layer 7 rules or my content rules, like URL filtering rules. I can define which category or which URL category of websites I want to allow or disallow in this network. So for example, I want to block these type of categories, these type of URL from my network. I should not be able to open or connect it to botnet websites, malware websites, spam sources. So definitely we are not going to connect to botnet type of website. It is what if some of our internal hosts are compromised, maybe those hosts try to communicate in the backend servers over command and control. Those type of communications can be blocked directly from here. Further, the last thing I want to highlight here, the security features of the appliance. I mean, the additional security features. I can enable or disable my IPS, my AMP directly from here under the threat protection. So AMP stands for Advanced Malware Protection. It is a very good tool when it comes to do deep packet inspection on a file. So whenever we download any file from internet, out of that session, AMP can discover whether this file is a clean file or a bad file, and based on that, the file can be allowed to download. And in the last, you can see IPS rule. I can enable or disable my IPS rule directly from here. So that's pretty much of it from my end. I know it was too quick, but if you want to explore these options in detail, maybe we can talk later on.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was a really good demo. Just going to share my screen again. If you can hand the ball back. Or can I take it? Ah. So we've had a few questions whilst we've been going through. The first question actually always came through whilst you were presenting. Someone has asked, can we prioritize the traffic class?
Prioritize the traffic class. So we cannot prioritize the traffic class, but what we can do, we can specify the traffic class and we can influence the routing decision, like which interface we want to choose for particular traffic class. But we are not prioritizing the traffic class itself in the MX. Maybe that option is there or maybe in the roadmap, but I have to double check. I think right now I can't see that option. I understand that you're talking like if I compare it with the traditional router, where we can specify the option to prioritize, let's say, a VoIP traffic. So I have to double check whether this option is available now or it will be available.
Perfect. We've also had another one, which I think I might direct to you, Rob. Someone has asked, what are the benefits of moving from legacy MPLS networks to SD-WAN?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Laura. Well, it depends on the deployment, but the key ones we see on the deployments we've done thus far is really around cost and ongoing management. So SD-WAN operates, as you've seen, over DIA circuits or direct internet access circuits, which are much cheaper than MPLS generally. So you'll see a reduction in the monthly cost, and depending on how you deploy on-prem or cloud, there is then another saving there in terms of having CEPs on CPEs on location. So then from an ongoing management perspective, obviously, as you can see from the demo, the ongoing sessions, additional sites, management of it are greatly reduced. So you can't really put a number to that, but you know, that's one of the key benefits of moving into SD-WAN, specifically Meraki as well.
Fantastic. And then we've just had one more for Dave. If anyone does have any more questions, do feel free to ask them whilst we're going through, by the way. But this one says, what is the most common challenge you run into when deploying SD-WAN? We wanted to move from our legacy MPLS for some time, but would like to understand if there's anything we can iron out in advance to make the transition as smooth as possible.
Yeah, so something we've seen quite commonly is the actual connection of the devices to the DIA circuits, so the direct internet access circuits. So what we're actually look for is that the ISP provides dual interface ports. So what we've seen in the past is where an internet provider provides a single interface port, you can only connect that then to a single MX device. So we'd actually look for the internet provider to provide two. Where that's not possible, we've had to put internet switches in before. So it's always good just to clarify in advance how that circuit is going to be presented at the office to ensure that it can be connected in the optimum way, because we've mentioned a few times that both internet circuits can be connected to a single MX, and then you can have the same two connected to the secondary. So it's just making sure that the ISP provides the correct number of ports. And we've been burned with that a couple of times, so we've had to put in include switches before now when it comes to clarifying that. So that's probably one of the risks. The actual deployment itself, we've mentioned a few times, the zero touch. So these actual sort of projects can be done remotely. The actual comparing it to a traditional network deployment, it's a lot simpler.
Fantastic. Okay, we've just had one more question. I'm going to open this one out to the floor, whoever can take this one. Can we integrate monitoring of devices with SolarWinds?
I think I've actually just answered that. Actually, there was a link that I've just actually put into the Q&A tab as well. So SolarWinds, the NPM product, can actually monitor the Meraki organization. So I've just included a link in there. I was actually just reading through some of those myself. So I noticed on the back of that as well, there was another one mentioning China. So there is actually a link. I'll include a link just around the support information for using Meraki MX devices in China. There are some of the Meraki feature set that's not currently permissible, but the MXs can be used and VPN connections can be used. So I'll actually include the link for that as well.
Fab. And then Oasis just messaged me to say that he would like to re-answer his first question. So I'll open back up to him.
Yep. Okay. If you can share me the ball, I will just want to quickly show that option in the on my demo on my Meraki dashboard. So
Perfect. Cool. Just hand that back over.
So yeah, let me reshare my screen. Yes. So what we can do, we can specify the type of traffic instead of creating traffic class. So let's say maybe voice traffic. We can specify any protocol. Any category of application, or maybe we can create custom expression. Maybe we can match just the subnet, or maybe the port numbers. We can specify then the bandwidth limit for that particular traffic, and then we can prioritize it. Like we can put that traffic in a high priority, a normal traffic, or normal priority, or low priority traffic. Further, we can also enforce tagging. So DHCP taggings can be applied to that type of traffic. So yeah, that option is there. But yeah, what we can do, we can specify either protocols, or we can also create custom traffic class. Not traffic class, we can define something like network addresses, IP addresses, or maybe port numbers. I hope it clarifies your question.
Fantastic. Okay, I will just take back over. We've had another question as well. I think, Dave, this one was directed at you. How will this work in a place like China, where VPN tunnels are always a challenge? Oh, you're on mute, Dave.
Always gets me that one. So I've included the link now in the Q&A panel. So there is, in the Meraki documentation site, there is information around users in China. And basically, Cisco Meraki has invested significant resources into launching a China service, initially back in 2018, but there is some leaps and bounds since then. So there is quite a lot of information on the site for there. So yeah, I'll point you towards that link, and that should answer most of your questions on there. But again, we can always reach out to us directly, and we can dig deeper if need be.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you for those questions, everyone. I am now going to hand over to Rob, who's just going to talk through kind of the follow-up to this session and how you can get in contact with us.
Yeah, thank you, Laura, and thank you, Dave, in a way. So I hope you guys found that useful. It's pretty short and sweet. We didn't want it to be, overly long or overly technical. It's just giving you an overview of the product, the benefits. And as Dave said in the beginning, if Meraki is not the solution for you, there's also the Viptela Cisco solution that we can deep dive separately. So please do reach out to me directly in the first instance, and I'll bring in experts such as people smarter than me like Dave and Oasis into the conversation. And for all those questions being asked, we'll probably reach out separately to you guys on that. But feel free though to reach out to us if you're already in the middle of an SD-WAN deployment or looking at doing one. We're happy to just sort of be the sounding board, a bit of a guide for you in terms of what we're seeing in the market and what probably is the best fit solution for you. So feel free to reach out for advice and guidance, and yeah, we're more than happy to assist. Thank you very much.
Perfect. And just to add a note to that, I've mentioned that there's an SD-WAN managed service guide on the resources page of our website. I am also going to send that out to everyone directly after the session, so you can have a look through our options, etc.
Yeah, good point. And we'll reach out as well in terms of the Meraki MX devices for all the participants. So I'll review that, and I'll reach out directly in terms of how do we get those across to you guys. So the criteria are like, unfortunately, it needs to be in Australia only, but nothing international for all those people joining from abroad across Asia Pac. So the Meraki MX device offers only for within Australia. So but I'm sure we can make something up later on further down the line to revert back on that. So yeah, we'll circle back on the MX, and again, yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. I hope that you found it to be an engaging and insightful session. And again, thank you to our panelists. It's been a really good one. So yeah, if you have any questions, please do reach out to us directly. You can also contact us at hello@natilik.com if you have any general questions that you'd like to ask. But like Rob said, please do get in contact with him if there's anything that you'd like to discuss. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye for now.
All right.